What's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're all doing good. The thumbnails are just gonna say Conquest. I don't make the thumbnails for the tournaments, or for the new player tournaments. JP's been doing those, and he does them a month out, and he just used the wrong template, so it just is what it is. We've also got a, we've also got a little bit of something different. Last week, on Sunday or Saturday, I don't remember when it was exactly. I think it was Sunday. I played my first game in the Changer's Gambit tournament that Nalnish is hosting on the RTK tournament, on the RTK Discord server. And it's just like a for fun tournament where for each win that a player gets in the tournament, they have to randomize 2k value in their starting and reinforcing army. So I honestly really need to brush up on exactly what the rules are. Because last week was the first game, so nobody needed to randomize anything in their armies to start off. But Martinius and I both have wins. So we're both going to have some fairly bizarre stuff in our armies, depending on what exactly we're playing. It is a Matrix tournament, so I don't even know what faction I'm going to have to be randomizing to begin with, but I have been, like, kind of just theory crafting it in my head that, honestly, there's going to be factions that are going to be a little bit better in this format. I'm thinking that factions like Norska are especially going to be strong, because Norska doesn't really have any bad units. They've definitely got ones that aren't as strong as other tools in their roster, but since they have such a small, limited roster, and it's all fairly decent in domination, they're going to be exceptionally strong here. Because, God forbid, you, like, randomize on Warriors of Chaos, and you get something that's absolutely useless, like, I don't know, some Dragon Ogres. Like, to this very day, Dragon Ogres remain a unit that just struggles tremendously. I don't know why on paper they look good and then in reality they aren't, but that's just an example, you know, of some of the things I've been thinking out in regards to the tournament format. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm hooking up with Martinius right now. I told him that I'd be available, so we'll play that game, and then we're gonna get into all of the new player replays that I still have to go through. Because we've got a fair number remaining. And I did want to try and stream yesterday, but there's just been way too much stuff going on for me personally, and then just in general, my my country is just being flushed down the toilet at rapid speed. And it's been incredibly discouraging, and it feels like the entire world is caving in on me. So it's been kind of hard to give a hoot about video games lately. But I'm finding some other projects for myself to work on. It's giving me a little bit more energy, making things feel a little bit less pressing. Hopefully, I can find a nice balance between working on these more academic projects and, you know, doing this, like playing a game that I genuinely enjoy, and just haven't been able to find the space to occupy myself with it. Just asking Martinius some questions. I'll probably need to ask Nalnish as well. Okay. Oh, okay. Remove units from the right until you have 2k left in each. So... Okay, that seems fairly self-explanatory. Nalnish just cleared up what I was confused about with the reinforcements and the randomizing. So I'm just going to be genning an army twice, and then I'm removing the units from right to left until I've got 2k in my starting army that's randomized, which is fairly straightforward. That means the Lord is going to be randomized, which, again, is making me feel like Norska is going to be a pretty good option, because, like, you get Wolfric or Throg, or you get the random Marauder guy. I guess he would be the worst option, but Norska has so many strong tools, I don't even think that getting him would even be that big of a deal. You just pare him down to nothing, and then bring another random unit, and then just run it, and basically hide him, I guess. Can't change lures of magic or mounts. That's it. Alright, I messaged Martinius. He hasn't responded back, so I think we might just end up waiting on him for the time being. What games here have we already watched? We've definitely watched these two from Saturday. I believe we did also watch this one. Meet and Renataki we went through. Don't think we watched Suga play Random Cuban. We did watch a couple of Kislev games, but there is some corn business I want to get here and go over. Particularly this game between Hobgoblin and Weo. What elves are kind of bedeviling to Khorne, oftentimes. I'm curious to see how Hobgoblin works around the Wood Elf's skirmishing prowess, which has always been Khorne's main weakness. Going with a fairly heavy infantry build here. Valkia up in the sky. Valkia is pretty safe in this matchup, honestly. Because of Demon Shield alone. She does struggle against the Sisters of Twilight, but Demon Shield does make her pretty hard to snipe the missile play. Because if she gets netted by the Glady, the prey of Anathrema, she can usually pop Demon Shield and survive through the Way Watchers. And Swift Shiver Shards are very strong, but don't have a lot of AP. They usually don't poke too well against Valkia, because she's a fairly small target. She's got a lot of armor and a shield. The shield is a bronze shield, so not the best missile mitigation in the game, but still fairly decent. And any little bit of survivability on Khorne's Lords is always helpful. We've got two Skull Cannons, one of them being the Hellforged Bellers, and you can see Valkia immediately being poked by the Sisters of Twilight. This is what they do best. They're very good at bullying Valkia from afar. Valkia wins in the prolonged melee engagements because she has much better stats than the sisters do. But trying to close the gap against the sisters on the dragon and dealing with the perpetual damage and then also the potential of being shot to pieces in the process is a tricky pickle. Oftentimes, if you bring Valkia and you see the Sisters of Twilight, it's best to just try and hide Valkia somewhere and bring in some Furies to occupy the Sisters of Twilight, because Furies actually do pretty good damage to the Forest Dragons, because these things have awful armor. Only 60 armor. It's, like, respectable values, but Furies do get through that pretty good with the crazy high melee attack, and then also their melee, their weapon strength, I guess I should say, does have some decent AP, and then on top of that just has really high base values. So really good shots coming in from the Hellforged Bellowers. I mean, excellent counter-skirmish unit. Very vulnerable because its range has been nerfed very heavily since release. It had 280 when it first launched in Omens. Now it's down to 160, making it much easier to shoot down with significant numbers of missiles. But the Wood Elves don't really have their missiles grouped up in a way that they're able to effectively shoot down the Skull Cannons. Skull Cannons have 110 armor, and like I said, the lack of AP on these Swift Shiver Shards can hold them back a little bit in terms of the value trading against Khorne, which is obviously one of the most heavily armored factions in the game. If you had all 4 Swift Shiver Shards in position to be able to actually shoot these Skull Cannons, they'd be fairly easy to shut down. But with the Skull Cannons both focusing down these 2 Deepwood Scouts, plus you've got Furies and Valkia finding her way into combat. She's just landing here on the ground, and there is something you can do to avoid the missiles on the Sisters of Twilight. Because these shots actually don't have a lot of penetration on them, if you get something with high enough mass, like Minotaurs or especially Chaos Knights of Khorne, Valkia can actually sit in the middle of those units. And the Sisters of Twilight ammo will actually hit the Minotaurs or the Chaos Knights and not get through onto Valkia. Khorne oftentimes probably should just prioritize doing that, like just literally land Valkia on the ground and hide her in the middle of a unit. Because your units value trade very well into the Wood Elves. The only thing that you really need to desperately worry about against Wood Elves is not ever being able to engage them in melee combat, which Hobgoblin has done a fairly good job of. Hobgoblin has found quite a few fights in the front line with all the Chaos Warriors and Marauders, just pushing very hard to get into the backfield here. And Weo doesn't have a very big front line. And the missile play has been a little uneven for the Wood Elves. Couple that with the fact that the Skull Cannons, just the only threat to them right now has been these Wild Riders. Wild Riders having to dive into the backline instead of being able to hammer down the infantry is a big problem, because you've got your opponent on your back point. You've got 2 Swift Shiver Shards here in the middle. Hobgoblin doing a very good job of just playing outside of their range for the time being. What you do here, yeah, just bring in double Fury. And you know that these Swift Shiver Shards are probably still here. You know that they were, at the very least, on the middle point for a decent chunk of time. You just bring up the Khorne Gores with the Fury support, and this should be a shutdown on both of these units, and that'd be a huge loss for the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves really want to keep their missiles healthy so they can use all the ammo and also be able to unsummon them so that they can bring in some infantry. Because Marauders and Chaos Warriors are both very strong in this matchup in terms of their combat potential because of the light armor that the Wood Elves have across the board. Eternal Guard actually can get beaten up by Marauders pretty badly because their melee defense is pretty decent at like 36, and I believe the shields have, what, like 40-something? But Marauders especially, the 44 melee attack, as long as their Frenzy is up, can actually do a very, very decent job of clearing out the Eternal Guard. Now you've got Skull Cannons blending in the front line. These things are awesome against infantry. They can't do it alone, but look how much damage they're able to throw down with their anti-infantry attacks and the massive weapon strength that they've got here. I mean, a bonus versus infantry of 25 is massive. You can see that the melee attack itself is fairly low at base on a Skull Cannon, but it's similar to Doom Flares, where their base values are very low with a high emphasis on the like niche that they hold, so that they don't overperform into other stuff. It does make them a fairly balanced unit. Plus, they lost a bunch of Vortex damage in a patch recently. So, yeah, you can see over here, the Swift Shiver Shards did get caught by the Furies. Weo just didn't have anything over here to really protect them, and you can see that the flight overhead of all of these angry little, I don't even know what to call them. They're like the flying monkeys, almost, from The Wizard of Oz. You know, they're just a little more demented looking. They're just so good at controlling space in this matchup for Khorne. As long as you don't massively overextend your Furies and let them get hammered by Wild Riders, you very, very likely are going to be able to find critical wins in the mobility fight. And if you can control the mobile game of the Wood Elves as Khorne, it's almost impossible for them to win in the front line because their units are so squishy, and you just have Fleshhounds cycle charging their stuff. You can get up Chaos Knights of Khorne, who are very good at charging down War Dancers, and also the Wildwood Rangers, who are usually the answer to stuff like Chaos Warriors. I don't know, I mean, Hobgoblin has done just an excellent job here of pushing forward the infantry and taking most of the damage on these shields. The only thing that's not played out well for Hobgoblin here is Valkia getting bullied so hard. I mean, she really has not done anything this game, hardly. She dropped a couple Sleipnirs. That's accounting for pretty much all of her value, I would guess. It's only 500, but at the very least she's alive, and I've always been wondering and waiting for someone to do this.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Because of the pathing, your unit doesn't, like, fly through the open portion of this, like, terrain piece. They fly over the top of it, and you can, like, hide your lords up there. You just, like, give them an attack order, or a flight order, I guess, over the middle of it, and then when they get to the top, you hit backspace, so they stop moving, and then they're just, like, hovering a million miles up in the air. Kind of what Hobgoblin was doing there for a moment, but it looks like he's just trying to get Valkia to the back of the map, where she's going to hide out. Sisters of Twilight are out of ammunition, so they can't go back there and snipe her right now. And there's more pressing issues for the Wood Elves. A lot of the infantry here is fairly beat up, but, you know, Khorne infantry on low HP can be very dangerous thing to tangle with. Just because they, as long as they've got Frenzy, they can still throw out some serious DPS. Add in the fact that they are continuing to hold on to this middle point. Khorne just needs to grab their own back point. And it should be a fairly easy cleanup operation. You've got these Fleshhounds here. Definitely want to get them into the rear of this fight. They will probably break the leadership on the Eternal Guard and the Dryads here. Add on to the fact the good shock damage on the Fleshhounds and the magic damage that they do. Getting through the Phys Res of the Dryads especially is pretty important here. Dryads can be a little frustrating to scrap against. They typically aren't all that impressive in terms of their damage output, but they do hold for quite a while against stuff like Khorngors and even Chaos Warriors and Marauders. They can beat up on Marauders pretty decently at the very least, and they tend to hold against the Warriors because of the Phys Res. Zotes and the Sisters of Twilight are here in the middle, and a beautiful Sword of Khorne in the back line. Very fresh, newly summoned Deepwood Scout getting hammered by that giant Tier 3 army ability. Losing almost all of their HP, but no models lost is very important. I mean, these guys do still have enough leadership to be able to survive that shock damage, and will be continuing to pump out the damage with their 80 models remaining. This is where you'd really like for your Skull Cannon to be able to get one more good shot off, and be able to finish up that unit. If they just get one more artillery shot in there, it's going to kill a bunch of models. The Vortex damage will really wreak havoc on the very low HP on each individual model, and they'll probably just break off the field. There's another Swift Shiver Shard here. We've also got Stagnites on the field now. There's a lot of heavy hitters in here. But the Zotes going down is a big issue. I mean, they were desperately trying to hang in here. But the Fleshhounds, the Marauders, the Chaos Warriors, the Khorngors underneath them, all of that being just a little too much for them to tangle with. They're very sustainable with the Earthbloods and the Flesh to Stones. But once they're out of Earthblood, and then you've got a cooldown that you have to account for with Flesh to Stone, they have to hit and run more. You can't keep Zotes engaged in prolonged fights against Khorne, because that's where Khorne thrives, right? I mean, the DPS output from the Chaos Warriors, even without the mass to really keep the Zotes in combat, just because the Zotes are able to toss around the individual Chaos Warriors doesn't mean they're not taking damage from every possible angle at the same time. And it does look like the Wood Elves are scrapping back the value now. They weren't even down all that terribly. But when you're down at any point against Khorne, the individual units on the Khorne roster are so strong, especially the infantry. Hobgoblin did an excellent job of recognizing the opportunity to get the objective caps, and has just been holding on to them by the skin of his teeth here in the late game. And a big part of the success with that is the fact that Valkia is still alive, and there are no leadership penalties on all of these units, because Khorngors, Marauders, Fleshhounds, they all have about 60 leadership, and if you're losing 16 right off the rip from your Lord dying, and then even with it going down to a -10, you're losing a lot of frenzy on your infantry and mortals, and then the demons, just the risk of getting rear charged and having a -10 at base and getting debuffed even more on the leadership. Crumbling is just so brutal on the demons. Like, demonic instability is a nightmare for Fleshhounds. I can't tell you how many times I've lost Fleshies in the weirdest possible moments of games. Really good win here for Khorne. Good effort by Weo. I think that a little bit of this was maybe bringing... I think it's too many Swift Shiver Shards. I do like them. If you're gonna bring 4 in the opening, you really do just want to keep them all together, and try and just focus fire anything that comes within their giant range. They've got 155 meter range. Not a lot on the Khorne roster is going to be able to approach safely. It's really Skull Cannons that wreak havoc on these invisible guys. But I do highly recommend mixing in a Waywatcher, because whereas Swift Shiver Shards can struggle to get through the armor, even though Waywatchers don't have magic damage, their AP is just disgusting. Waywatchers have a ton of ammo, and they have massive, like chunking damage that they can throw out just with individual volleys, because they're so accurate. You don't even need the ROR, but the ROR is very strong against Khorne. Never pass up an opportunity to discourage Khornate leadership. ITP does not work on contact effects like Discouraged. It's worth remembering. ITP is only there for, like, fear and terror routes, really. I mean, there's a lot of ways to apply leadership penalties to Khornate units. And yeah, Khorne is fairly durable against terror routes, but they're not immune to it. Once that frenzy wears off, they run same as anybody else. That's one of the ways that you can kind of push them around. Yeah, the full Khorne mobility is definitely the way to go into Wood Elves. You have to be able to win the mobile game. If you don't dominate the mobile game as Khorne, then you might as well pack it in. Like, having the Chaos Warriors and Marauders is a great idea, but you need to use them as your buffer for damage. So, I love the idea, boss. Did you do my VP versus Lizard game? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. I did not mean to do that. That's my bad. Here. No, don't do this. I didn't mean to delete your message, bro. That's my bad. I'm clicking stuff on the dashboard. Alright guys, let's go get another replay real quick. We've got more corn games. I could go through, there's one here that I really want to spectate, this Soul Grinder game. We'll get to that in just a minute. Did watch this one. The triple mortar was disgusting, by the way. I really loved that for dealing with the lizardmen. Especially the skinks. They just got absolutely clowned on by those mortars. I'm going to delete all the games that we've already spectated. I believe we got this one out of the way. Did we watch the Skaven Bretonia match? If somebody knows, please let me know. Yeah, we got this High Elf game in. Azazel did a really good job in this match, and then God, the Soul of Damnation was just wrecking the White Lions, and really anything that was coming out for the High Elves. Did some really good work there. Let's get some more double Little Grom action. We saw Suga play double Little Grom at one point. With the Drugina for the restocks, Empire for Hire is going to be doing his own twist on the double Little Grom build here. Drugina's available, but instead of the Tempest Ice Witch or a Frost, or I guess a Frost Maiden, the Ice Witches are the Lord options. Instead of the Frost Maidens, we're going to get a Hag Witch with the Shadows Magic, which is always a really fun option. Shadows Magic is so consistent with Melkoths. Pit of Shades is here also for any High Elf elite units, which I think is a good call. High Elves actually are very strong with elite forces, just because they have good access to healing on several Lords of Magic. Having something in the bank for something like a Sword Masters of Hoeth or the Phoenix Guard isn't a bad idea. I know Little Groms are here, but it's just a little bit extra for you to allow these Little Groms to control the mobile space, because if you're going for double Little Grom, you're probably not going with too much other mobility at the start of the game. I really like Horse Archers to assist in the mobile aspect, opening up, so you don't get triple cap too early, but going for the Streltsy is also a really good idea. Boydenov's Brawlers are a very strong unit. Pretty short range, but they've got the suppression effect, which does a lot of work at controlling space, and then they also just throw out insane amounts of DPS with the accurate fire that they throw down. Because shotguns can be a little inaccurate, but with the 9 chevrons on these dudes, they literally just do not miss with the volleys. You've got an Armored Kossar over here with the shields, which is smart, so archers are going to be very ineffective against those guys. Plus you got double Streltsy, and those are also going to be able to shoot up just about everything here. White Lions of Trace are going to have a little bit of resistance, but Little Grom with a beautiful shot, brutalizing this unit. Oh my god, 19 models with one shot is gross. And then now the Streltsy can just open up on these guys and pull them down fairly quickly. I wouldn't imagine it'd take more than 2 more volleys to break these guys down into being pretty non-functional. Drugina's just using his bow here. Looks like he's poking the Illyrian Reaver Archers a bit right now. Hag Witch is just posted up, and we're going to see Boydenov's Brawlers open up here. I mean, these White Lions of Trace are closing ground. I don't know if they're not on fire at will. Oh, they're getting an attack order too far in front of themselves. And it looks like they're going to kind of blunder into combat with the White Lions. Would have been really nice to have the shotgun volley in before the things in the woods charge down. But this should still be a win for Kislev overall. The Streltsy will take some unnecessary damage, but with things in the woods here to throw out the AP damage against the White Lions, should be a fairly easy fight to clean up. And the Archmage getting in the back line here and getting tossed around by the Little Groms. I think they've been shooting her as well as the Streltsy, also throwing down some deeps again against her. She's very beat up and a very expensive Lord on a dragon. Losing this early, not really getting a lot of value out of the magic is just unacceptable. You have to be able to keep these kinds of Lords safer. I find that dragon characters in general can be really risky against Kislev because of all their hybrid shooting. even armored Cossars with the pistols can slowly wear these guys down. Honestly, bringing an Archmage is the way to go, I think, but you probably want a Life Mage if you're going to put her on the Dragon, and if you're not going to be on a Dragon, or if you're not going to bring Life Magic, you should just have a horsebound character that can, like, especially on this map, run up into the trees and kind of hide and just cast magic from the safety of cover. And you would be in a pretty good spot. I mean, this build for the High Elves is not bad at all. But there's definitely a few mistakes that Crimson is making here that really need to be cleaned up. One thing that you definitely need to do with breath attacks especially, you don't want to cast it directly over the head of an infantry unit. If you're trying to hit a single entity, if you're trying to use a breath attack on a single entity, then you do want to be directly over them. That way the stream is like directly on top of the SE. But against forces like this, like a line of armored Cossars, get out on the side of the unit, and then breath attack down the entire length of the formation. Archer's a little bit bunched up. You know, good response from Crimson, getting one of them a little bit outside of the range of the things in the woods, making sure that if one unit is compromised, you're not, or at least if one unit is diving one of your backline units, you don't have both getting shut down just because they're well within the attack range and they're overlapping with the other missile troops. That's why you see so many people harping on concaves for your missile line. Because if you have them set up with good spacing, if one unit gets jumped on by the things in the woods and you've got your units in a concave, you can fire from all the way from the other side of the formation into the unit that's attacking your other ranged pieces, and you can kind of self-peel without having to throw all of your cavalry up as a reserve to stop the backline aggression. Silver and Guard are doing a pretty good job of holding on, but they don't have a tremendous amount of value. The Streltsy are finally being taken down, but Watchmen in the Night, as well as some Boydunov's Brawlers, are doing a pretty good job of cleaning up some of this back pressure, and you can see the Sun Dragon trying to shut down the Little Groms, but a great response to the Kossovite Dervishes, blocking the Sun Dragon from being able to attack the Little Groms cleanly. And a little bit of close-range focus fire in the Druzhina also poking the Dragon is enough to clean up this very expensive single entity. Oh, and a really nice Melkoth onto the Warlions of Trace. Not maximum effectiveness, since they aren't above 25 models, but they're low enough, and they have low enough HP that any extra little bit of damage that you can throw down on the Warlions is a good idea, because while Warlions do have a decent amount of leadership for a monstrous unit, it is only 55. You can break them fairly effectively, especially with the fact that the High Elf Lord is dead and gone. Leadership problems, big issue here for the High Elves, which is very rare to hear, but they really didn't bring a whole lot of high leadership units, especially not out of reserve. They've been summoning in a lot of Illyrian Reavers. They had a lot of Warlions to start out with, but the Double Little Grom did a really good job of pummeling those guys early, and then the Streltsy got some cost-effective shots off as well. And White Lions of Trace in general tend to be a pretty disappointing unit. Especially against Kislev, I really don't think that they're going to be very useful for you. Their stats are just not high enough to scrap with most of the hybrid Kislev units. You probably want to play a little bit more into a heavy missile line as the High Elves here. I don't know if Archers are the way to go. It's probably going to be some Lothern Seaguard. But I don't know what you do against Double Little Grom. The accuracy on these artillery pieces, the Druzhina has been dropping restocks on them. You can see he's used 2 of them. He's probably going to be able to throw down a couple more. Frostworms are another really good answer that Kislev has for any of the big monsters that the High Elves might be bringing out. I've never found this to be a very good matchup for the High Elves. I think Kislev is massively favored here. You probably just have to play, like, insanely clean in the micro game to have a chance here as the High Elves. This might just be an instance of
You have the
It's an SFT. You run into a bad matchup. You're still fairly new, so you do bring a few units that on paper might look to be good answers, but in reality are just very bullyable by your opponent's faction, and they just get all of the good engagements because you just don't have a clean answer to something that they brought. And the little Groms haven't been getting tremendous value. I mean, 1,100 and 1,000 is very respectable. But the most important thing that the little Groms have done here is force the overextensions on the high elves, because you can see how many bodies of, like, Illyrian Reavers are back here. A lot of War Lions and Silverin Guard were pushing deep. And Kislev, fighting on their own side of the field, have just been having a field day cleaning up all of the pressure from the high elves as a result. Dervishes with some decent value. The Frostworm hasn't been out long, but it did a good job of cleaning up some of the War Lions. You can see a lot of scattered, beat-up high elf units that you'd really like to see back in reserve ASAP, so you can maybe get some reinforcements going for yourself. But this is about as grim of a situation as you can get into. You can see Crimson got a decent amount of tickets, but obviously, with the fact that Empire was very much focused on playing the value game first, it's not really going to do them any favors for the late game with how far they're down right now. Silverhelm's coming in, just taking oodles of fire. Kossar Spears are poking them. You've got the Hag Witch kind of mucking up the works with them trying to get past her, and her just riding alongside, getting some damage in. Kotzebite Dervishes are collapsing in the Little Grom fire, proving to be way too overwhelming for those poor guys. More things in the woods, and more Kotzebite Dervishes coming in to clean up yet another diving unit. Was a very beat-up War Lion, but nonetheless, they do have decent enough stats and AP that they can definitely put some hurt down on the Little Grom if you don't get over there and help. Trying to preserve Little Grom's HP is very much worthwhile. They're a useful bait tool, but if you can use all their ammo and unsummon them, you do get about 650 supplies back if they're at full health. And obviously that can help Kislev a lot, because Kislev is a pretty expensive faction overall. Being able to unsummon stuff, get it back in the reinforcement pool, regen, and then also be able to immediately summon out something to help you hold on to caps can be massive for factions like this. Frostworm moving over to answer the War Lions. War Lions have done a good job of grinding down the remaining Streltsy, but Boydnov's Brawlers, man, just bullying these poor guys. They can't even get into combat. You can see their speed gets debuffed down to 20 here. Plus, the shotguns knock infantry models over. Really, the only way to shut down Boydnov's Brawlers in any kind of timely fashion is to use mobility to collapse on them from the flanks, which can be very difficult at times if Kislev is playing carefully around them. But infantry are almost never going to be able to close ground in the Boydanovs safely. Even if it's a unit like this is 30% missile resistance, they're just going to continue to get stun-locked by the shotguns. The reload time on these guys is very nice. 11 seconds is pretty quick firing for a gunline unit. Terror Route's going down on archers and Silverin Guard. Silverin Guard are usually very stalwart, but you can see all of these leadership debuffs wreaking havoc on them, and then they just get too low on the leadership, and it's a guaranteed Terror Route from something like a Frostworm. Frostworms are so strong. They're not amazing against infantry if they're sitting on top of the unit, but they do have collision attacks that can do some pretty respectable work just by charging in and out of combat. You can see it here. It's getting on top of the archers, and all of that HP damage is just from one collision from the Frostworm. It gets 20 model kills on this archer unit, and it's just going to turn right around and go after these unbraced Silverin Guard. Definitely want to try and turn around and get lined up. A beautiful enfilading shot from the Little Grom from downtown, tearing about 15 models out of that unit in one shot. Frostworm diverts now that they're turned around. They're moving so they're not braced, but just going to clear up the Illyrian Reavers isn't a bad idea. Another Terror Route Frostworm in the late game, doing what it does best, which is just making life incredibly difficult for units that do actually make it into melee contact with Kislev. Kislev's not very good in sustained fights. A lot of their units are actually fairly low HP. And since they're hybrid units, they're respectable in melee combat. But melee specialists oftentimes will outstat stuff like Kossars and armored Kossars. Kislev is very reliant on the range damage and the shock damage, which is why having something that's able to cause terror can flip these fights with, like, Streltsy, able to stay alive just that little bit longer to provide you more value as they trade at range. So, pretty good timing on the Pit of Shades. A little bit off, but, you know, I mean, as good of a time to, like, practice the timing on it as any. I think it's a 5-second time to cast. Does it show it here? No, it doesn't. That's a little unfortunate. But I'm pretty sure Pit of Shades takes 5 seconds to get the cast off before the actual damaging radius pops up. It gets a little bit of damage on the White Lions. Kislev just gets to play in the deployment zones now. Crimson is just so far on the back foot.
I knew it. Unending glory is yours.
I'd recommend very strongly that even if you're losing this badly, it is worth playing out these kind of scenarios as a new player, so you can get a very good feel on what is and isn't possible to come back from. Because domination mode, you'd be surprised how much of a value deficit you can be in, and somehow find a way to claw back into games. Until you have, like, a very, very, like, firm grasp on the ins and outs of matchups and just how doable it is to survive early value deficits. Trying to come back is never a bad idea. So I've got to give Crimson some credit for the scrappiness. It's very hard to persevere through getting your ass handed to you a little bit. I would have given up much earlier than Crimson did. Sometimes you just don't have the answers. And this kind of felt like a massive uphill battle, considering that the High Elves just didn't have any solid answers other than deep diving attempts on these little Groms. I think the best thing you could do on this map with your opponent's double, just massive, big BS artillery gun build is very early on, you just try and get as many of your forces up into the trees as possible, get those early caps, and just jump in and out of the trees as your opponent sends stuff up onto the actual objectives. The more time you can spend locked in melee contact with Kislev against Little Groms, the better. Little Grom does not want to friendly fire. You need to take advantage of that as much as possible. Alright, Martinius is ready. Yeah, good value on the little Groms. Dragina got 1,200 value. That's pretty respectable for him. He's a really good lord. He's very underrated in my opinion. And he is what really gives the sauce to the double little Grom build. The restocks are so ridiculous on these things. I mean, they are easily one of the best artillery units in the game already, and the fact that you can keep them out on the field for an entire match makes life living hell for some factions, especially factions like the High Elves, who are very dependent on their cavalry and their war lions, and also have, like, fairly annoying infantry. Like, White Lions and Silverin Guard can be fairly difficult to remove, especially the Silverins, but the fact that little Groms just fire accurately onto infantry, barely miss shots, and can just cleave through entire formations and take out 8, 9, 10, even more models at a time, it's very hard to have the patience to just sit and weather that fire while you build up. I noticed that while in most games the higher the skill level goes, the tier lists become more relevant. Here it works in reverse. Do you think that's the case for these NPT tournaments? To some degree, I think just because newer people are going to be more experimental, obviously. Because you don't know like what the just period best units are for each matchup. You're going to experiment a lot more. And your opponent is probably going to be experimenting a decent amount as well. So you see a lot more matchups between units that you normally wouldn't see, and the builds tend to be just a little bit more diverse. I think that's probably why. The tier lists are a pretty good indication of the general power level of a matchup. In terms of, like, Wood Elves have a great win rate against Khorne. A really high level Wood Elf player is usually going to beat a really high level Khorne player because there's more practice in that matchup. There's more of an understanding of the do's and don'ts. And it's just a little bit harder for the Khorne player to make the kind of plays that you have to get to win those unfavorable matchups. So SFTs at the higher level tournaments tend to play out much more in line with what the tier lists show, definitely. If you're playing in matrixes, though, like a 3x3 matrix tournament, then since you're not forced into bad matchups, you see a little bit more even games between people on average. And with the state of the meta right now, where most factions are within a fairly close range of outcomes in terms of win rates. Let me pull you over to it real quick. I gotta go jump into my game with Martinius in a second, but this is worth talking about because you can see here, you've got the Ogre Kingdoms have actually overtaken as the highest win rate faction. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can actually see stuff. You see, Ogre Kingdoms are at 56%, Vampire Counts at 55, Slaanesh 55, Norsk at 55. You can see how close the win rates are. This is the closest the meta has ever been to being as even as possible. Like, the game is excellently balanced, but I will say this, when you get in and look at the win rates between factions, you can see that even with the top tier faction right now, the Ogre Kingdoms, who I would agree, probably the strongest faction right now overall, even with them, they have bad matchups, right? In a Swiss tournament format that's a single faction style, you could just run into the Vampire Counts of the Ogre Kingdoms and just kind of be SOL. And there's really nothing you can do about it at that point. Like, maps make a little bit of a difference sometimes for these bad matchups, but usually it's just a bad matchup, period. In a 3x3 Matrix tournament, say you've got Ogre Kingdoms chosen, you've got Chaos Dowie chosen, and, like Bretonia or something. You've got a good spread of factions, and, you know, your opponent, you can kind of, avoid your opponent's, like, Vampire Counts with your Ogre Kingdoms by banning it out. Maybe a little bit of a tangent to go on, but, I think it's worth pointing out, just, in general, that, if you're playing in SFTs, you know, the single faction tournaments on a regular basis, getting bad matchups is just going to happen. It's almost unavoidable. Sometimes you'll get great matchups the entire tournament. Sometimes you'll just, you'll be like me a few weeks ago, where I think I literally played all three of the or I think I played Wood Elves. Yeah, I played against Wood Elves, Dark Elf player, and I played into Norska in one single faction tournament, and it just felt so miserable because they're all incredibly tough matchups to win on the Blood God, unfortunately. Sometimes you'll get that, and sometimes you'll get what I had at one point, where I had like 2 Lizardman players, Vampire Coast, and a Tzeentch player, and I was actually able to win that tournament. And, you know, of course, those are the factions that Khorne actually has good matchups into. It's just back and forth. If you want, like, a really, truly balanced tournament, then the Matrix is the way to go. Alright, brother, I'm on my way. I'm ready when you are, brother. I'm sorry I got on such a long tangent. I know what Martinius typically likes. I'm not going to ban out Warriors of Chaos, but I will 100% ban out Empire. And I don't know what else he's been playing lately. I haven't played Martinius in a while. Let's ban Empire and Vampire counts. So we got a Beastman and Ogre Kingdoms ban, so of course I'm picking Khorne. They're my main. There's never going to be a tournament where I'm not trying to prioritize playing them. Here, I'll flip you all over and you can see what the picks and bans are looking like. Damn, okay, so we got some Slaanesh in here. We're gonna prioritize banning out Slaanesh. I'm not enthused by the idea of playing Martinius on Slaanesh. I think that would be a miserable matchup to have to grind in right now. We're going to pick Kislev. It's been a while since I played him, but I do love them to death. I think we could have a pretty good time. Demons, Slaanesh, and Greenskins versus Khorne, Norska, and Kislev. So... Demons of Chaos, really tough for Khorne, also not great for Norska. Kislev doesn't mind Demons too terribly. They've got some good spells and units against those guys. See what we can do here. Can also go and reference some of the back-end stuff for what the win rates are looking like right now. Chaos Demons are a really fun faction to probably do into this random tournament. I'm picking what I'm familiar with. I haven't been playing nearly as much as I have in the past, so I'm trying to just play stuff I know. Because I do want to get some wins, and I would like to be able to embrace the randomness as much as possible by actually winning games. We'll get our matrix going. I'm surprised that Martinius isn't playing the Warriors of Chaos. It's been one of his mainstay factions in the past, in my experience. He's almost always prioritizing them for picks. This is definitely going to be a little bit of an adjustment in terms of what I'm used to seeing from him. Those greenskins, okay. Khorne, Kislev, and Norska. Let's try and get this a little bit neater so that it's more readable. Get rid of that. Okay. What maps are we on? Oh, we've got 3 maps to pick from, that's right. Okay, so Proving Grounds, Bleakspire, Labor Camp, and Imperial Road are the options. Those are all fairly large maps. Bleakspire's the smallest one, for sure. I don't really love the idea of playing on that one, period. It's got some weird, terrain features on it. I gotta go check which one of us is on the top of the bottom of the bracket real quick, guys. So just stay tuned. I'll BRB. It'll take me more than a second, and then we can actually get to banning all of these factions and whatnot. How is the... Here it is. That's for round 1. Round 2, I'm on the top, so I get first ban, which is super sick. I think our first ban is going to be Doc versus Khorne. I'm not a huge fan of that matchup for Khorne. It's not impossible, but it's definitely incredibly hazardous. Martinius gets one of the good Lord options for the Demons of Chaos, and can get a Lord snipe, then I would probably just be dead, because the Demons have tons of terror-causing monsters and amazing mobility. It can be very difficult for Khorne to contend with those, that wombo combo. Alright, no Demons of Chaos Kislev. So Demons are getting banned out already. I think that we start banning out the Slaanesh matchups then. Slaanesh Khorne is like the least bad one. Kislev definitely does not love fighting Slaanesh. I've had some very bad experiences there. So we're going to try and avoid that. I'll bring it all over so you can see what the current picks and bans look like. You don't have to just listen to me talk about it. Oh, okay. Damn. Oh, he forgot a ban here. So Greenskin's Khorne, Greenskin's Norska, both of those are really good bans. Neither of those matchups are all that good for the Greenskins. I need to see what his other ban is. So I did forget one, because it's 1-2-2-1, or it's 1-2-2-2-1 for the bans. I get the last choice between the 2 remaining matchups. So he's got one more of the 3 remaining matchups to pick from to ban, and then I get the choice of the last remaining. Okay, and Greenskin's Kislev is going to be the ban. So it's Khorne Slaanesh or Doc versus Norska. So we're going to play Khorne Slaanesh. I get to play my main. We'll see if we're going to be able to do some business here. I'd love to be able to get another dub. He's got a lobby, so we'll go and join now. Rip. Okay, maybe he doesn't have the lobby up anymore. I think he might have closed that one, so we'll just host our own. I'll send him the code to mine. Alright, this is going to be exciting. This is the first game for this tournament that we're actually going to be randomizing anything. So, I'm going to take a sec, I'm going to dip out, and then we'll come back in and see what we end up with. Alright, guys. We gotta do our map bans, and then we can do the randomized. Let's just see what map we're playing on, and then I'm gonna do this. Let me paste this for our boy here. I'm gonna actually go and find the challenge link again. Okay, never mind. We're just on Crystal Lake then. Okay. I'm being silly. I don't know what I'm doing. Reading the wrong business, so... Moment of truth. Let me just double check Nalnish's message and make sure I'm doing this the right way. Oh my goodness, we got the Herald on the Blood Throne too. Oh, that's actually not bad. It really is kind of a budget Skull Taker nowadays. He is a little bit cheaper as well. He's got some really strong stuff. Tormentor Sword is really nice control, if he's getting dove on, you can always just pop this and kind of run away. Plus, you get Locus of Wrath, which not even Skulltaker has access to, which is really cool. $800, 800, 725. I'm just gonna screenshot this for our boy here. So I have to keep these 3 units on the bottom, which isn't really that bad. I mean, a Corngore and 2 Bloodletters really isn't an awful set of units to need to be summoning out to make up for this. I do really like the Herald. Oh, baby. Alright, I have no idea what he's gotten, obviously, but I think I can definitely get some serious work done with this build. I'm feeling pretty hopeful. I think we'll do the Hellforge Bellers. We're gonna have like a double bike build, basically. And then we've got Skull Reapers, who are very strong. Couple Flesh Hounds. Maybe we don't bring that thing in. Maybe it's a reserve unit. Let's get rid of the... Well, the Marauder Throwing Axes are a pretty good unit here. So maybe we do need to keep them in. Huh. So I can cut the abilities and everything, and the way I'm setting it up is just all 2,000 gold is going into my random lord. You know, he fits perfectly with the Foe Seeker added in. And I guess that could be kind of useful for him. Gives him speed, charge speed. It's not like it only gives the vigor reduction like it used to, which was one of the things that definitely held it back before. I think I don't need that Bloodletter, actually. Triple Flesh Hound. And a Slaanesh isn't a bad idea. Crystal Lake does have some trees, but I can try my best to stay out of them. Maybe we cut the Hellforge Bellower. There's a big combat character. It can become very difficult to protect. I think maybe I want to prioritize some other stuff instead. Definitely want a couple Furies. Very, very strong. Blood Beasts are good, but they lack the ITP that comes from Blood Greed at base, so they could fall behind and kind of leave me in the dirt. Okay, I think this is, I think I'm set. I feel pretty confident with this. Alright, I'm ready to go. I got a perfect build, too. Gotta love to see it. Honestly, I mean, the Lord choice isn't really what I'd be going for. I'd just bring Skulltaker. He's the best Lord that Khorne has. But I'm not too disappointed in the option, because at the very least I get the leadership buffs and the melee attack buffs, which are always really useful for fighting Slaanesh. Slaanesh does not like it when you can just bulldoze into them. It's not the Slow Roast tournament. Yeah, it's the Changer's Gambit tourney. His final boss is mentioning.
Takers of skulls!
We're just gonna do something a little bit like that. We'll get our Skull Reapers and all this other business going. We'll probably have the Chaos Warriors just go sit on this #1 objective. There's a nice little spot here for Chaos Warriors, so they just park right up here. And they've got a whole flank that's protected. Because, you know, like, your opponent can go around the trees and the terrain blocker, obviously. But the nice thing about having the unit position here is that you can actually spot stuff into the forest. So you can usually see if your opponent's trying to flank around you. We're going to try and keep our eye on. That is iconic. That's amazing. I love YouTube, dude. Alright, well, that's ridiculous. Thank you, YouTube. So yeah, stream crashed. I didn't notice. I played the whole game. I lost. It really wasn't even close. Martinius's build is just way better than mine here. We can replay it and walk through it. Maybe I'll see something here that will give me an indication of what I can improve on. But I just don't know what I'm supposed to do into all these Forsaken. The Forsaken just bullied me. Plus the mobility on the back end for Martinius was just way too much for my units to handle. Sorry about it crashing, guys. So, you'll get to hear my walkthrough as we go along. I got the Herald on the throne, just moving up to the points. I was thinking maybe I could get a nice triple cap early, but obviously my opponent's Marauder Horsemen, with their Javelins, massively gonna outtrade my throwing axes at range. It's really not a very good fight. I'm going to use the Fleshhounds to grab the #3 and the #2 here, and we're going to try and consolidate back up onto the #1 and hold the #2. I think probably rotating down to go after these Forsaken might have been a better play. Kind of hard to say, though. You can see the Javelins on their way in. Going to pull back with the Fleshhounds because they are very vulnerable to the magic damage that these Slaanesh Horsemen offer. I'm going to move my own throwing axes in, and we're going to keep the Fleshhounds not far behind. We're going to try and look for some value opportunities, but immediately losing a number of my own horsemen here as they just get pounded by the jabs. Massive firepower coming in from these guys. Martinius doing a very good job of playing cagely. He is almost going to cap the #2, but my Fleshhounds get up here, are able to keep it secure, but I do, again, take some horrific damage, especially on this one Fleshhound, and they get chunked down to about get chunked out for about a third of their HP here, just chiseled brutally. Skull Reaper's moving up. I'm going to try and get an engagement against the Forsaken here. I'm using my Fleshhounds to try and lock them down while the Skull Reapers move in. I really want this engagement, but I figured that I was getting a little too close to my opponent's deployment zones. I'm going to try and pull the Flesh Hounds back. They're being a little slow about it. They are going to start pulling off, but they take quite a bit of work here. Just attacking a very decently armored unit. Just not really the strong point of Flesh Hounds. Skull Reapers are getting macerated by the Javelins at the moment. My opponent with the Heartseekers taking a head-up charge against my Flesh Hounds. Usually Flesh Hounds can trade okay into Heartseekers, but you can see the Hysterical Frenzy coming in. Massive boost to the prowess on that unit. So with 100 melee attack on these Heartseekers, they're just beating the absolute shit out of me. The Herald doesn't really even need to do anything this game. She just needs to stay out of the way, and that'll be an easy win there. Minotaurs being attacked with the Furies. We're going to get some units up in here. The Minotaurs should be able to fight this off. I rally back here just to try and clear this quickly so I can get some units into combat. You see the Forsaken beating up on the Skull Reapers. Acquiescence goes down. I'm trying to countercharge desperately where I can. I'm losing out on value, and the Skull Reapers are actually just doing nothing currently. They really are not trading well at all. They can't get any fights. The Herald is doing some decent damage on his Blood Throne here for sure. He's chunking through some of the Forsaken. The Demonettes are here. We've got a blob fight on top of these Forsaken, but again, the Javelins doing a lot of work here against me. It's a lot of units to have blobbed up on one Forsaken right now. I don't really have much of a choice. I don't really have the coverage from any infantry now. My one Skull Reaper is over here. The Marauders are dead. The Skull Reaper here is running away, and the Chaos Warriors are a little too slow to get all the way up on the edge of this fight here. Furies are hovering overhead. They're just trying to dissuade the Heartseekers and Eternal Entourage from diving this. I'm hoping that the Herald of Khorne is going to be able to do something here. Skull Reaper's getting jumped on. I'm trying to pull the Herald back for a moment. I get him back into this fight. I dive with the Furies. They're going to try and get some damage in. And I pop the Horn of Khorne with a lot here. And you can see, getting some decent value against the Eternal Entourage with this Fury and the Skull Reapers. But these guys just get chunked down too quickly. The Furies get rear charged by the Herald. Really good call from Martinius. And that's going to be a huge loss for me. My Horsemen are just trying to hang on to the middle objective here. I can't send them into 4 Marauder Horsemen and expect to win. I turn around with my Minotaurs and the Flesh Hounds trying to get a surprise jump on these guys. Martinius with very clean micro just going to pull away, and again, I just don't have any way to force fights. The Tormentor Sword, I thought I was going to get a good cast of it earlier in this game. But I popped it, and then all of the units, I guess, were just slightly out of range, so they were able to cleanly escape from it. And now I'm just looking to clean up whatever I can. I'm just trying to hold on to these points, but the Skull Reaper choice I thought was going to be solid, but with all of the Skirmish Cav here, they were very quick to clean up my units, plus the buffs with Hysterical Frenzy and the debuff with Acquiescence just wrecked their stats, and they were not able to do anything. Minotaurs have also not been very strong. They've been fighting a lot of infantry where I've been wanting to get them engaged on this mobility, obviously. They just haven't been able to access those targets. My opponent is screened very well, and Forsaken for Slaanesh are a 51 speed unit, so they're basically a mini cav force. I'm not able to anchor anywhere. So I'm constantly doing what I can to try and pull away from bad fights and get clean engagements, but because my opponent has a value lead and is able to summon in more reactive answers to what I'm throwing out, I just can't find the momentum anywhere. Herald does have 1,000 value, is outpacing the Herald here, but the Herald does have some crazy good stuff to offer to these targets here. And you see the Eternal Entourage getting the Locust of Grace, getting an extra 24 melee defense. 72 melee defense is just so brutal to have to answer. My Flesh Hounds go down. The Hounds of the Blood Hunt are off the field. Throwing axes are doing what they can. they've got decent value, but it's just not enough. And the Chaos Warriors, again, my infantry getting absolutely clowned on. And the Herald is not loving life right now. I'm able to get the Tormentor's Sword off so he can escape. But the Fiends are just out of range. Another instance where I thought I could get a more decisive engagement and just wasn't able to. Eternal Entourage I'm going to take out finally here, but you can see how hard and long they're able to hold on here. For such a low HP unit, their leadership is just absolutely clutch, and for some reason they just have that charging profile active the entire time they're in that engagement. The points don't look terrible for me. The victory tickets are fine, but the value is, you know, I'm at a 2,500 gold deficit. Hellstriders and Fiends are holding on over here. You've got a ton of horsemen that are going to cap the number 2 away from me. And obviously it's nowhere near triple cap territory right now, so I've got to get over here and retake this point. Fleshhounds are going to get up on it. Minotaurs are going to be able to get on it. My Herald does have 1,200 value, but he is pretty beat up. You can see the Fiends moving in against what remains my Chaos Warriors. They're just so beleaguered right now. The Fiends are just going to scream up in here and get a great charge off. I get just a little bit of damage, and now they're going to try and pull out. My Throwing Axe is getting a little bit of damage on the way out. The Fiends are not quite able to get the decisive blow against these Chaos Warriors that they're looking for. I do have to engage these Bringers of Beguilement with some kind of shock damage just to wear them down. I have to be able to hang on to a objective. I'm able to get the number 2. I'm being a little slow moving my Fleshhounds over, and the Bloodletters need to go over to the number 1. My opponent gets a great Fascination off on the Minotaurs. I tried to pull them back, but they get rampaged right into the Bringers of Beguilement. They get a million buffs, and I don't have any answers for that. I can't disengage. They're faster than all of my stuff here right now. See, the Acquiescence is debuffing the speed on the Minotaurs as well, so they're just kind of trapped here in hell, essentially. Fleshhounds are doing damage to the Heartseekers, and the Corngors get in here, but they are going to get flanked by the Forsaken. That devastating flanker is going to come into action here. And you can see the Herald is just not nearly as durable as Skulltaker is. Even though he's able to get some great Locusts of Wraths off, my supporting Lord is just not as impactful as my opponent. You know, Martinius can use Locust of Grace to give all kinds of buffs. You've got the spellcasting advantage here. My Bloodletters and Fleshhounds, now that my Lord is going down, are just going to crumble out. The shock damage is way too much for these lightly armored Bloodletters to contend with. Chaos Furies land in here, but they get smacked by an Acquiescence, and they have 0 melee defense, so there's really nothing that they're going to be able to do to win this abysmal fight that they're stuck in now. And the Bringers of Beguilement are just going to clear through the Corngors with their perfect vigor and crazy high stats. Forsaken are barely taking any damage, and this is all she wrote. I mean, I don't have anything to work with. Got no supplies, got no units. I think I should just ignore the Minotaurs, and, I don't know, Blood Beasts are probably the summon to go with. And the Herald is just going to look, very superior as I concede the game here. Massive ouchies. I really didn't have anything outside of my Horsemen and my Herald that did anything respectable. The Marauders got bullied by Forsaken, and the Chaos Warriors got bullied by all the armor-piercing mobility. Skull Reapers got filled full of javelins and then debuffed into oblivion. And from there was really not anything I was able to do. The Minotaurs couldn't do much. Hounds of the Blood Hunt were okay. The Bloodletters sucked. Corngors sucked. Furies did what they could. They got some value, but just not nearly enough, man. And that was a brutal series of trades for me. I think I'm not ever bringing Skull Reapers into Slaanesh again. I mean, this isn't the worst matchup in the world for Khorne, but when your opponent is going to go for the debuffing strats against you, Khorne has no way to mitigate either of these spells, right? Like, Spell Resistance doesn't do anything against Hysterical Frenzy or Acquiescence. And Martinius was just playing with such good micro that he just got all the engagements that he wanted, and I never got a single good one, basically. I was just playing on the back foot the entire game. You just can't do anything about it sometimes. It is what it is. We'll try and get a better matchup in the future. I really thought that was going to go a little bit better, but it is what it is. We'll get into the new player tournament replays, and we'll see what's what. And this will be a good place to start. We didn't get any of Pistons games the other day, so I'd really love an opportunity to be able to show them off. We've got some Khorne versus High Elves here. High Elves are a pretty decent faction into Khorne, especially when they bring dragons, like what we're seeing here. You got a Moon Dragon and a Princess, who's also on a Moon Dragon. Prince is a very good skirmish lord. You've also got a couple Rangers. You've got the White Lions of Trace and Sisters of Avalorn. The White Lions of Trace are okay into the Khornate Chaos Warriors. It's a respectably even fight for the High Elves. It's definitely not, like, ideal. The White Lions are just a fairly weak unit. Their HP really isn't all that impressive. Chaos Warriors have really good stats as well. And they can usually slightly outlast White Lions on average. But any kind of buffs and good mobility support can really flip that in the favor of the High Elves. And High Elves do have a mobility edge in this matchup, I would say. So the Princess is going to be poking with her bow. It doesn't have magic damage, but she does have Volley of High Arrows, which does do some pretty good damage. It's like a mini Arrow of Kurnus. You can use that on Skull Taker to kind of bully him in the early game. Plus, you got Breath Attack galore here. Oh, this is a Star Dragon, not a Moon Dragon. Oh my god, even scarier, because Star Dragons are definitely a stronger combatant than the Moon Dragons. You get a full 1,000 more HP, even a little bit more than that. Plus, better melee attack and melee defense. A little bit more weapon strength. Nothing else too notable. I think normally Star Dragons have a higher charge bonus, but the Princess has a lower amount, I guess, because she's a skirmisher at heart. 45 is still respectable, though. So you can see Khorne is just trying to get up on the points. Triple capping early. The High Elves were very slow. They didn't want to fight over the number 1 while it was getting capped by the Flesh Hounds. So Khorne is able to get the early lead on the tickets, but you've got the Chaos Warriors moving into the White Lions of Trace now. Sisters of Avalorn getting some great volleys off on Skull Taker, who's already very beat up. And you get the Slayer Sword popped and the Locust of Fury going off. Beautiful breath attack from downtown, and another one overlapped onto the Chaos Warriors. Down to about half HP on those poor guys. That's definitely going to allow the White Lions to grind better into the Chaos Warriors. You can see that they're much weaker now on the HP front. White Lions, though, not that far behind, even though they really haven't lost nearly as much of a proportion of their health. Tells you how little they really have in that bank. 8,000 on 100 models is pretty low. And we get the Princess landing on Skull Taker now. Skull Taker really isn't bad in single entity fights. Really just because his melee attack is so solid and he's got the Unyielding Assault, he can't be debuffed. And he pops the Slayer Sword against other big single entities and then debuffs their weapon strength. Gives himself a massive weapon strength buff himself, plus melee attack. He's always got 85 melee attack with the Slayer Sword active, and that's usually enough to kind of bully even big dragon-type characters. Oh, and I forgot to mention Bloody Onslaught, lowering melee defense and armor. So much going for him. I'd love to see the other Khorne Lords get buffs. They're all fairly solid, but Skull Taker is just far and away the best option, and I really feel like CA should buff up the Khorne Lords a little bit more, because Khorne is so centered around keeping their lords alive as is. What the hell happened here? Did this battle just crash out? Why am I having so many problems with the game today, dude? Oh my god. It's driving me nuts. Oh, it's a desync game. I could bother to read it. That would explain it. I don't know, man. A game like that, with the High Elves having their lord fairly healthy, doing a pretty good job of beating up on the Khorne forces. It's kind of hard to call, but I would think that the High Elves kind of had an edge there. The High Elves would have had a pretty good answer there. Yeah, right. As soon as it gets to the good part, it desyncs. That's so annoying, man. The game's always out here causing issues. We saw this one on Saturday, so we'll kind of skip over that. We'll salve ourselves instead with a Kislev versus Khorne matchup here. This one I'm very excited to see. I love the Soul Grinder of Khorne. It's a fairly fighty unit. It's pretty strong, honestly. I do really enjoy it. I thought about bringing it against Slaanesh in that last match. Ended up not doing so, and I think I would, in the future next time, do it, because this is like one of the few anti-skirmish cap pieces that Khorne actually has at range. It's got 120 range. It actually outranges Marauder Horsemen, so I could have used it against all the Javelins fairly safely. And then I could just cut down on the Skull Reapers and do more Chaos Warriors and just box up a little bit more. I think that would have worked out better for me. We'll see how it does here. Kislev has got much longer range poke. I don't typically recommend Soul Grinders into these high AP value ranged factions. Kislev's got a lot of AP missiles. They've also got really fast horse archers who can poke from 140 meters away. Like, the Soul Grinder's not massively outranged, but he's going to have a hard time closing the gap with a 75 speed versus the 92. First shot goes down, he just whiffs horribly. Does happen sometimes. It's a little obnoxious. It would be nice if he could actually hit a little bit more consistently. You can see him whiffing more and more shots here and getting punished for it. You can see those heavy war sleds with their musketeers in the back. Having a good old time. I mean, I guess they're just Streltsy. They have the same bottles anyways. Yeah, throwing down a little bit of firepower. You can see wearing them down by about another 200 HP. Double Frostworm's pretty scary to see, actually. This is a classic example of Khorne coming in with the Warrior Wall and your opponent just having a million solid answers to it. The Horse Archers are going to poke the Skull Crushers. The Heavy War Sleds are getting caught by the Fleshhounds now, though. The Skull Crushers, oh my god, they're getting flanked by the Frostworms now, though. We do get a really good response from Piston, going to turn around and start to try and lock down these Frostworms in this fight. But Castalton does have Blaze of Devotion, raising that leadership, giving melee attack, and we get the Slayer's Sword and Locust of Fury procced here. I was wondering what exactly it was. We do get a really good engagement on this Frostworm. You can see Skull Taker's prowess in the melee fights, man. Getting in there with an 893 weapon strength, 85 melee attack, and putting some good work in on the Frostworm. Skull Crushers are also brutalizing Castalton right now. He is so trapped up in here. These guys have 1,500 mass apiece. 32 models left. How much value do they have right now? 2,000 value on the Skull Crushers. Getting an absolutely amazing engagement, and the Fleshhound's doing a great job of keeping the Heavy War Sleds off of the back of the Chaos Warriors. Chaos Warriors grabbing points and just solidifying the hold on the battlefield for Khorne right now. Maybe even going to push out to the number 3. Number 1 does get capped by Griffin Legion, Good summon with the Corngors screaming up to that point now, though. Definitely going to be able to get there with good timing and probably be able to hold on against this elite cavalry unit. If Empire were to try and charge down the Corngors, you just backspace the Corngors, and they'll brace, and then you'll be in a pretty good fight there. Hawks of Miska goes down, but doesn't really have any targets. Too much armor here. Hawks of Miska does not have any armor-piercing damage on it. And the Leadership Discouraging is nice, but not coming in time. And look at the Fleshhound value. Oh my goodness gravy, man. 1,700 on this Fleshhound as it brutalizes both heavy war sleds, just not allowing them any space or freedom to maneuver. And the Frostworms have been dealt with very handily. Those Skull Crushers were absolutely aces, man. They just carried this game on their back with Skull Taker backing them. 3,100 value on these guys. Honestly, more and more, I'm seeing Skull Crushers just look a little bit better into these highly mobile factions than Minotaurs. They are 1,700 gold. They're a huge investment, but the extra speed, the solid stats, the extra models, I mean, they don't have as good of weapon strength, but they do have double the amount of models with better armor, a shield, good leadership. It's about the same as Minos. They don't get the ITP at base, but they do have Frenzy, obviously. As long as they're near a Lord or unit that's buffing up their leadership, they can hold for ages. They're an excellent answer to so many different heavily armored kite options. Good Hailstorm coming out to hit the Fleshhounds. It's going to do a little bit of damage, but these doggies do have 50% spell res. Very hard to break them down with any kind of magic casting. The Frostmaid is just so trapped up in them. They're very good at killing horsebound caster characters like this. Soul Grinder's been maneuvering around. I've lost track of what it's really been up to, but it has 1,100 value, so obviously it's been doing okay for itself. Took a lot of damage early on, and has been getting worked on a little bit since then. But with Fleshhound and Skull Crusher support, able to survive the Griffin Legion attacks here. And with Skull Taker there now, these Griffin Legion are in a very dire situation. They're desperately trying to escape. They're going to take a lot of casualties on the way out. See a lot of models trapped up in here. Definitely want to keep the attack order on because you will pull down quite a few of these guys if you were to do that. They're going to be able to squeak away here. You can see just hanging on, like no attacks coming in. When you give your units move orders, they're very loyal about doing so. They don't fight anything that's in front of them if they have a move order. Basically, I would say with Khorne, you really always want to be charging something with Khorne. It's very rare that the Khornate units want to be sitting in one spot, unless you went with the Warrior Wall strategy and you're just trying to weather enemy missile fire for the time being. It's one of the rare exigent circumstances, I would say. You got some Furies maneuvering around, you got Corngors here, Skull Crushers out in the open field, just kind of milling about. There's a huge lead for Piston right now, but you do still need to be careful. Your opponent does still have a decent number of units out on the field. There are two decently healthy Griffin Legion. The Horse Archers are maneuvering. They've gotten some respectable value. They've paid for themselves at the very least. But Skull Taker is just the biggest issue here. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot yet, but he's full health, man. That's a scary sight to see in the late game, especially when you're already at a value deficit. Chaos Warriors are getting cleaned up by the Dervishes here. Really good isolation on these infantry. We've also got the Soul Grinder going down. It has done respectably. I mean, 1,400, definitely not paying for itself, but in this matchup, that's honestly not too terrible. It's been a good distraction, Carnifex. That is one of the reasons why I like it with Skull Takers, because your opponent has to pick between the two scary single entities to fight. And Skull Taker is so durable. Oftentimes people over-prioritize the Soul Grinder. And with the Shotgun Cannon, it can get enough value that your opponent wasting time on that and ignoring Skull Taker can oftentimes leave you in an advantaged state as you just bounce around killing the rest of their army. It is pretty nice to have in the back pocket. See, Kislev grabs the number 2, but they don't really have anywhere else to go. There's just a million warriors or Khorngors or the Skull Crushers with the Khorngors on each of the side points. Really what you do here is just sack these Minotaurs now. Get Skulltaker the hell away from these Streltsy if you can. He should be able to escape. He's just about out of range of this one. The other Streltsy will be able to get a couple volleys off on him. I don't know, maybe it's just going to be one more. He'll have about 3,900 HP. That's not too terrible for him. He's just got so much leadership that it's basically impossible to break him unless you just get a absolutely clutch, decisive engagement on him. Griffin Legion with good value. They've been utilized very, very well here so far. You just are down so much, you desperately need them to do an obscene amount of extra heavy lifting for you. And I don't see that happening. You're going to get a nice Hawks of Miska here. It's going to discourage the leadership of the Fleshhounds, but not a whole lot else. You can see, again, that spell resistance coming into play. Add on to the top of that. Hawks of Miska just isn't super effective against multi-model units. Frost Maiden almost gets trapped up here again, but she is barely going to squeak away. She blasts herself with the miscast, dropping this hailstorm. The Fleshhounds are going to immediately start crumbling out for some unforsaken reason. The Scourge effect, attacked in the rear, losing, and blah blah blah, actually crumbling them very quickly. That's one of the problems with those Fleshhounds, man. I really don't, I really struggle with maintaining them on the field myself at times. Fleshhounds really have to be used as a sweeper unit and as mass support more than they are a diving unit. I see a lot of people use them aggressively to dive, and that oftentimes just gets them into trouble and they just don't perform well that way. If you can use them to like trap your opponent and then follow up with infantry to win the engagement, that's really where the Fleshhounds shine, because they get buffering. They make it hard for your opponent to withdraw, obviously, and they can actually get their value back while allowing the same thing to happen for your infantry. Furies get a good engagement over here, just jumping on Streltsy. They actually beat Streltsy in a head-to-head, I kid you not. Streltsy suffer because of their melee defense against the Fury onslaught. You know, Streltsy have decent armor at 70, but 27 melee defense just does not save you from the 44 melee attack that these things have. You can see how quickly they pull this unit apart at the seams. Over here, Streltsy are able to sort of outlast the initial charge of the Fleshhounds. Fire of Blood procs, they're going to be able to hold to the very end here. Bloody Onslaught is debuffing them as well, allowing the Fleshhounds a little bit of extra value as they're just slapping through the basically zero melee defense that these guys had. While Bloody Onslaught was active, the lowered armor also helps the Fleshhounds. Wears off, also Fire of Blood goes away from these guys, and they're going to rout now. Shattering even. Going to take a long time for that unit to run off the field. Not that it matters. Khorne just has a rock-solid triple cap here. Kislev basically tabled. It's a tough matchup for Kislev. Khorne is so good in melee fights and is actually fairly good at answering a lot of the cavalry that Kislev throws out. If you can just crowd out space with Khorngors, and have a nice little like pocket force of Minotaurs and Fleshhounds with a couple of Furies to like harass the mobile elements, then Kislev oftentimes is going to have a hard time getting clean engagements with their shot cavalry, which is where they usually make hay in terms of value. Their range tools are really strong, but if they get engaged on by the Chaos Warriors, then usually it's nighty-night for those Kislevite forces. You can see that the Chaos Warriors, they just didn't get a lot of value, but they definitely held and survived a lot of shooting. And that, coupled with the fact that the Skull Crushers just came out and literally ground all of these big monsters into dust in the opening minutes of the battle. That was all you needed to be able to hang on for that objective win. Empire's opening engagement was just so rough, and despite grinding back a lot of value, it was way too much of an uphill climb. Had miners coming in soon, infantry position to cut off his support. That's really the way to do it. You just make sure that you've got enough objective presence with the Khorngors and the Minotaurs and maybe some warriors just to eat shots. Make sure you're not taking too much ranged damage. And whenever your opponent closes the gap, your advantage in combat prowess with the anti-large should always shine through against the forces of Kislev. If I want to see a blood speaker be used poorly. We'll get there. I'm going to cover some of the other games here so that we can see some brutality in action. It's a crazy good game. If you want to see this matchup between Suga and Hobgoblin, go check out the VOD from Saturday. I definitely fumbled the bag with Screen Blocker at one point, but we did end up covering it a second time, and you can see just how strong Double Little Grom is into Khorne. We can even watch another one here if we wanted to. Already covered this game. We've got... I'm not going to watch another desync. Really unfortunate that that player seems to be desyncing so much. Really hate to see it, honestly. Lizardman versus Kislev is definitely an interesting matchup. Let's just see if we can find something else first, though. I'm racking my brain as to whether we saw... We did see this matchup. I'm remembering this now. Tourney had a couple of good engagements early, but then, like, the Rat Ogre and Eshin Triad Swarms, like, really shut down the cab, and that was pretty much it. Let's get Hattie in here. Didn't get any Hattie games on Saturday. I don't want to leave our tourney host out in the cold.
Orthodoxy protects you. I protect you. Take not one step backwards.
Hell yeah. Why are you bothering me with consumerism, Steam? I don't know if anybody else saw that pop up at the bottom of my screen. It's great. I don't care about your autumn sale. Anyways, Zarina Katerin is in on her big old ice chariot. Very powerful mount. It's a lot less powerful than it used to be, but it's still pretty oppressive at times. Especially into the Dowey, it's going to do a lot of work cleaning up infantry. Winged Lancers getting hit by the blasting charges does hurt. They take quite a bit of damage, but, I mean, you're going to take these miners down fairly quickly. They're just very weak in melee combat, even against the very mediocre stats of the Winged Lancers. The Glorious Charge is really all you need to just kind of run over these poor guys. Overall win for Suga since you get the point. Dowey have a hard time getting up on objectives early, so being able to cap the number 3 and the number 1 away from multiple miners, and even killing the miners with some horse archers over here. Kind of nice to see some horse archers being used just to bully a very slow cap weight unit. Wearing them out slowly over time is not a bad way to go here. You've got Zarina even getting on top of the cannons. Man, Hattie got these cannons way far forward. I'm not sure if cannons are really the best call in this map either. I mean, one cannon back here covering the middle point is a really nice idea. And Malachi with double cannon is pretty oppressive normally, but there's so much forest cover and terrain shot blockers on this map that having to push these things all the way up into the front line almost just to get them active with some good sight lines is definitely painful. Giant Slayers come in, Zarina very healthy and avoiding them. Really good call from Suga. Winged Lancers continuing to knock over miners aplenty. Grim Delvers have not been able to get any volleys off. They're very tangled up with the rest of their forces here. No clean firing lines right now. The Armored Kossars holding in that front line against the miners very, very solidly. Just no danger from the low melee attack on those miners. Armored Kossars have 40 melee defense, so they just love fighting those very weak chaff units. Great artillery fire coming in. Patriarch getting smashed up right now. Does drop his Salyak's Lullaby as well as, I believe that was the Daj's song, yeah. Being popped on Zarina to keep her at perfect vigor, which is a smart play. I do kind of like that combo. But the Grim Delvers finally getting some volleys off. They get a little bit of poke against Zarina. She's finally starting to lose a bit of her HP here. Those cannons are continuing to try and hammer the Patriarch, who has found the forest, but not quite deep enough in there to avoid some of those cannon shots. They do slip between the trees and are able to get him down very, very low. 1,000 HP left on him, but he is alive. He could heal up Zarina. She definitely should be the one going to meet him in the trees there. Although it might not be necessary now. The Winged Lancers do get on top of both cannon crews. Dude, Suga's micro has been excellent in this game so far. Is down in value, but I think that's a little bit inflated because of the damage on Zarina and the Patriarch. Patriarchs are fairly expensive with the Balalaika, Dajas, and Salyaks. I think this guy is 1,100 gold with all of that. And Zarina is crazy expensive on this thing. She's down to about half health. Some of that damage has been mitigated by the healing, and Suga has just been cleaning up the rest of the Dowie so well. Yeah, your opponent's capping that outside point, but whatever. They're going to have an awful go of it on the number 3. You got Slayers moving in. The Horse Archers can definitely poke those guys. Giant Slayers are on their last legs here. You got 19 models and basically no health on them. The Skyhammer Squadron is the one heavy hitter the Dowie have left. Grim Delvers have been trampled by the Winged Lancers, who continue their rampage. 1,300 on one of them, 600 on the other. Solid performances. And you can really just add on more with the fact that the cannon crews are alive, but they are not well. They've got 11 models apiece. It's going to be very hard for them to recrew the cannons and get back online. All 4 cannon models are alive here. I don't know where the other one is. Looks like it's over here. All the cannon models are left, but I don't think that all of them can be recrewed by 11 guys. Even if you could, all it would take is like one more good cav dive from Suga to clean that up. The Skyhammer Squadron is going to get the deranged munitions buff, which is very interesting to see. You don't typically have people bringing that particular buff. They just rely on Eyes of Grungni and Artillery Master. Maybe bring Makai's Persuader. Makaison's Persuader is pretty good at healing up the Skyhammer Squadron. It's got about 1,000 value. It's definitely helping the Dowie stay competitive in this game. Armored Kossars are holding so well. We've got a Streltsy coming up. A new Winged Lancer has made its way out onto the field. Winged Lancers cleaning up the miners that were rallying out here on the number 1. And they're just going to go pedal to the metal to get the Grim Delvers here. Massive damage going down, though, on these poor guys. Are they going to make contact? It does look like they will, and that will be all she wrote for the Grim Delvers. I actually believe that the Winged Lancers should be able to outlast those guys. The charge damage seems a little low, but maybe now that they're rallying back the Glorious Charge, they'll be able to break them at the very least. Armored Kossar, great weapons moving up over there. Good charge with the Winged Lancers. They're trampling over some Longbeards right now. Slayer Pirates a little tangled up in there too, and we do just get a beautiful series of volleys from the Streltsy. Taking out Skyhammer Squadron models. It's all well and good to lose HP on these guys, but once you start dropping models on the Skyhammer Squadron, their efficiency goes into the pits. With just 2 models. Their DPS is just bare minimum. And they don't get the full use out of their Skyhammer bombs either at that point. Look, they did already use them all. They've gotten 1,600 value, which I believe is paying for themselves. Usually you need a lot more out of that, though. Skyhammer Squadron can easily get you like 3k value. They are very oppressive at times. Horse Archers, kind of getting clowned on. The Slayers are just overwhelming those poor guys. They did get shot up pretty badly by the Horse Archers, at the very least. But you do need something to jump out on the number 3. You could probably just rally both of these units here. The Armored Kossars have 1 volley left. They could go poke a little bit. Streltsy can kind of get set up right here and do the same. And then summon something healthy out to actually take the point. Looks like Things in the Woods are going to go over there, but they don't want to tangle, even with a very beat-up Slayer unit. Frostblade's being activated here in the middle on the Armored Kossar great weapons with only 200 value. I mean, nothing tremendous there. But, nonetheless, able to cap the number 2 objective away from the Dowie. Zarina is very beat up. She's got about 1,500 value. Definitely not her finest performance, but if she just gets out of here and goes and hides, or even if she runs off the map, then Kislev will be fine. Kislev is got Buyer Blood, so they can usually withstand their Lord running off the field. It gets a little bit tricky if their Lord is dead, obviously. That's a perpetual -10. If your Lord routes off the field, then eventually your leadership just goes back to normal. Skyhammer Squadron moves in and is able to kill Zarina Katerin. Hattie with the value lead here, but just can't grab points effectively. Giant Slayers get up on the number 3. Maybe you can gut out a win on the number 2. Get some beautiful shots in the Streltsy. Last of the Skyhammer Squadron, getting a little bit of a Black Hawk Down moment here. Dowie don't have a Delta Strike team to go save those guys, though. They're a little too slow for all that. So you're just going to have a bunch of scrubs making their way in, trying to help out their downed crew members. Things in the Woods are going to be ripping into all of these units here. And the Goblin Hero, man oh man, Goblin Hero with 1,600 value. I think that's what might have beat up Zarina out here on the flank, because I saw it just trundling in all the way up onto the middle point. It still had ammunition in the bank. You'd love to see a little bit better micro, being able to get all the shots out of that thing. Oh god, this is like this is the eternal pain of the dwarves. Like, they can get up in value, but if your opponent did a good enough job of kind of breaking up your initial formation in advance, and you're here in these late game situations without like a 3,000 or 4,000 value lead, your opponent can just grind you down by intercepting reinforcements, playing for time, bringing up like solid, long-lasting infantry, especially Zargard. Zargard are going to crush the Dragonback Slayers. It's not even going to be close. Way too much armor on Zargard. They've got great melee defense, too, to withstand the melee attack. The Fizzres is nice on the Dragonback Slayers. It does look, though, like the Zargard are going to move over to answer the Giant Slayers instead. Which I don't hate. I mean, the Streltsy are being attacked here. It would be really nice, yeah, to pull them back. Really good decision-making by Suga. Always want to be able to replace your hybrid units with more dedicated melee options whenever you can. Streltsy are, like I said, okay in melee, but they don't have great stats. They're an absolute monster at range, though. And you do see the remaining Armored Kossars just sacrifice themselves to stop up the Dragonback Slayers for a moment. Streltsy do have Buyer Blood proc, but that's fine. They're going to be able to get a few volleys off against the Slayers. See, the Giant Slayers struggling against these Zargard. These guys are probably going to end up with about 1,000 value, although getting surrounded here is going to be a bit of a problem. And while the Streltsy break, the Bar Blood wears off, and even with their leadership saying that they're well within the safe range, they end up breaking anyways. I guess it might just be... I really don't understand why they broke there. It's very annoying. Honestly, a bit of a problem for Kislev. They are down to 1 point now. It doesn't look great for them on the middle or on the number 1 out here. A lot of miners on the number 1 at the very least. Number 2 does have 2 unbreakable units on it. And the Zargard are really getting manhandled now that they're 2v1. This is where they're really faltering. But they are still able to grind out about 750 value thereabouts. They're definitely going to break here. Very unfortunate. 726 ain't bad considering the double team. Oh my god, and the Skyhammer Squadron coming back out. Where are they going to be going? Probably going to start laying the groundwork for a cap on the number 3. Now we don't have a ton of time. There's really not much over here. Honestly, just ignore shooting at the Skyhammer Squadron for a moment. Yeah, or turning around and shooting at the things in the woods ain't bad. Do the bombs actually do damage here? Holy crap, look at the damage from the Skyhammer bombs. Wow, both things in the woods being cracked open. Like a natty light on game day, bro. And now you've got the Skyhammers moving over to the number 3. They've still got more bombs. They got 3 more uses out of that. They could nuke these Kossars into another dimension right now. Same thing with the Kossar Great Weapons. This could actually end up being a win for Hattie. Staying super aggressive and resilient. I mean, Dowie resilience in a nutshell here. Looking really grim on the objectives for so long, but I think Suga maybe overplayed their hand a little bit going for all 3 objectives the entire game. And not consolidating on 2 in time to be able to grind out the objective win. And now the Dowie on the number 3 here, and they are flipping at those bomb runs, man. Late game Skyhammer value blitzing down all of the Kossars of Kislev here. No more ammo on the bomb runs, but you've still got plenty of machine gun ammo on these guys. They've got like a little repeating AP something or other. I don't really know exactly what it is. But it's got a pretty good damage profile for infantry and cavalry at the very least. Also decently strong against large single entities. Small SEs can dodge a lot of their shots, but they don't really have to worry about that here. They just fire in, and the explosive damage on the missile is enough to really wear out the infantry there. You see just how much they have. It's especially powerful on the base explosive damage. And that's going to be a win for the Dowie. I just don't see Kislev getting us back. Oh my god, but a late game clutch objective cap here. Oh, the miners breaking and running against the Kossar Great Weapons and the Winged Lancers, dude. They have been so money this game. Like, yeah, their value, again, the value just hasn't really been reflected accurately, I think, for Kislev. Especially for what their cavalry have done. The Horse Archers and the Winged Lancers have been holding these points. They've been poking away at a lot of squishy units. And I think that's going to be, oh my god, a back and forth win for Kislev. There's nothing here for the Dowie. They cannot cap this in time. That's going to be a GG. Oh my god, that's so... I'd be crying if I were Hattie right now. I'd really be kicking myself for not having another, like, full health unit to have moved over here while I had the miner core there. But you're expecting those miners to hold better than they did. I guess just the unexpected Winged Lancer pressure just really broke it open and gave Suga that last-second cap. A Hail Mary for the dub there. For sure. Awesome stuff. Great recognition of a vulnerability in a very back-footed scenario. 3,900 on the Skyhammer Squadron. I got about 2,300 of that on their last life. Yeah, because they got 1,600 the first time around. I mean, they were crushing it at the end there. Goblin Hero with 1600, also a really nice performance from it, but the cannons, very inefficient. Grimdelver's also struggling in the Dowie. Dowie and Melee really not their bread and butter. They are quite weak at it, in fact. Malachi, though, with 1600 value is pretty juicy. Zarina definitely kind of got clowned on by the Goblin Hewer. Gotta be careful of those things. I mean, they're very short range. If you just stay out of the range of that, Zarina could have just continued to clean up on the points. That's really what she does best. Honestly, in my experience, the best way to assault Dowie reinforcements is actually pincer around their formation with your infantry and use your mobility to take down their missiles and circumvent the front line, and then you can bring in more AP from reserve to kind of push up and deal with those annoying miners and whatnot on the point. And if any time you can get chariots out against the Dowie is always a really good idea, because Dowie really don't have answers for good chariot play. Like, they've got the cannons, and that's about it. Skyhammer Squadron can do some work, but because the Dowie lack mass, as long as the chariots are on the move, they can stay fairly safe from gyrocopters and gyro bomber fire and whatnot. As long as you don't have cannons just chunking the HP out of the chariots when they're in the open field, you can really just flatten over miners and Dowie warriors galore. They are super vulnerable to those types of units. I'm gonna actually save this replay before I forget, because I do want to rewatch this again later. I really need to figure out how to scrap in against Slaanesh as Khorne, but Martini has made that feel pretty impossible in our game against one another. That's how it goes sometimes, man. I probably needed to play a little bit cagier around the engagements with my opponent bringing a bunch of buff spells. I should have just not given Slaanesh any melee fights while I built up, probably. Just playing off of one point and just going after the horsemen, trying to pull all the Forsaken around the battlefield, I guess. I really don't know, man. Anyways. Alright, it's no longer an autosave. Cool, cool. We'll keep that in the bank for another time. Kislev versus High Elves, we watched already. Sheesh indeed, man. A second Kislev game. This one really not too terribly different from the Kislev build we saw last time, minus no Frostworms. No Frostworms, and bringing Little Grom and Zarina on her sled, too, this time. God, I've seen Zarina Katerin on her sled into Khorne so many times, and she is wicked hard to shut down if your opponent is really slick with the micro on her. Gonna try Khorne soon, but only use Arbol. Arbol is actually pretty strong. He does not provide any support, but it's very hard to wear down Arbol with missiles and spellcasting because of his resistances. As long as you don't let him get pummeled too badly. I do really think that there's an argument to be made that after Skulltaker, Arbol might be the better combat character than Valkia now. Valkia is really solid, but really she doesn't do a whole lot of... she doesn't really do a great job of skirmishing and fighting against a lot of big characters anymore. Arbol, for whatever reason, seems to be able to connect a little bit more consistently. Plus, he is grounded and has cap weight, whereas Valkia doesn't. I don't know, though. I mean, the Khorne lords outside of Skulltaker all have some very, very ever-present and noticeable weaknesses. Valkia just doesn't have enough HP. Add on to the fact that she's got no freaking mass at all. She's got 1100. And you think that's, like, no biggie, but she can't escape from blobs ever. You have to be able to peel for her if you want to bring her. And you compare her to Azazel, who's basically, you know, the same character, but for Slaanesh. Azazel has 2,000 mass, and he's infantry size too, so... Sia just really didn't want to do her any favors, I guess. Chosen going to get up in the trees here. Got a lot of heavy armor, which is not a bad idea against Kislev. Weathering their ammunition from the Kossars, as well as Streltsy. Definitely very, very nice. Little Grom, though, is a great counter to the Warrior Walls. If you saw the game yesterday, you saw what double Little Grom against Khorne can do. We'll see what this guy is able to get done here. Really good damage on Skulltaker. Little Grom is just laying waste to him, and look at the Flesh Hounds getting wasted in the trees here. Fleshies do not want to be in forests. For whatever ungodly reason, CA did not get Fleshhound Strider, and they lose speed and melee attack in forests. They're not fighting in it currently, but it did slow them down as they were trying to close the gap on the light war sleds, plus the frostbite from Zarina Katerin. This is very underrated on her, is the fact that her magical bow units slow units down that they're shooting. It's probably why the Fleshhounds weren't able to get a very good engagement here. They do get a little damage on the sleds, but nothing crazy. The front line, though, going decently for Piston. All of the Chaos Warriors get engaged. Furies are able to lock down Little Grom long enough that maybe you can get the Chaos Warriors around and get them up onto that artillery piece, but if you're smart, what you do here, Suga, is just kind of pull it away from all of the infantry and try and position it up to get some shots on the Chosen here. Skulltaker has not been able to do a damn thing yet. He has been locked out, kept at a distance. Nice ice sheet slowing up the Khorne units. And those AP missiles and the Little Grom have done quite a bit of work to him so far. Yeah, looks like Little Grom gets a great shot off on the Chaos Warriors. 16 models with one shot. Is gross. Sorry, guys, but y'all just don't have the sauce here. See what this next shot looks like. I don't know why Little Grom is taking so long to fire. Must have literally just shot before we got over here. Although it might be that stupid bug that it's got. Oh, there we go. Fires high and misses, of course. Every time you look at Little Grom, it never actually hits anything. Chosen getting massacred by the poor, not the poor Light War sleds. I don't know what, Light War sleds in here are in a little bit of a rough spot. They are getting beat up now with Skulltaker and the Chosen all over them, but they did get a great charge off here. These Chosen with about 700 value. Zarina doing some good work, but the Minotaurs get in on these war sleds and just pick them apart. Trying to pull through the remainder of the Chosen. They're going to get hit on the way out, and that's going to be all she wrote for that light war sled. You know, like a good initial engagement from Suga, but stayed in there a little too long. Pulling out immediately was definitely the right call. Just so you could bounce out and shoot Skulltaker while he's trying to clean up the Snow Leopard and fighting the Patriarch and Zarina. They'd be okay in this fight just because of the heals. And then Zarina has 110 armor on this thing. Chosen don't have great AP, but they are very fighty, as you can see. Minotaur's on top of Zarina, just letting her get caught here by Minos. Big micro lapse there for Suga. Still has a value lead. It's not out of the woods yet for Khorne. Just because they get a decisive advantage against their opponent's main lord here does not necessarily guarantee that they're going to be able to run Kislev off of the battlefield here. She does still have close to 400 HP, I mean 398. She could get Solyax as well, and then just hide on the edge of the map, and you've still got a very dangerous Little Grom out here. Used up half its ammo, or a little bit more than half. but it should be able to kill Skull Taker here with a couple accurate shots, which would be a massive issue for Khorne. You see he takes a walloping blow here. That bonus versus large, not the most impressive thing in the world, but any little bit of extra damage helps against a character like this, and it actually gets Skull Taker crumbling. Wow, Skull Taker going down big time here. Gets thrown clear of the explosion from that little Grom. Light War Sleds are, you know, dead on their feet. They each have one model left. One of them actually rallied, which is pretty hilarious. Both of them rally. I guess you could just pop a fat Solyax on all of this and maybe just, like, throw them into combat or something. I don't know what you do with that, but Kislev's cleaning up on their home objective. Number one objective is being held by Khorne, but sneaky cap, I'm guessing, from the Horse Archers on Khorne's home objective keeps these Flesh Hounds occupied back here. And the Chaos Warriors have been getting worn down by the things in the woods, as well as the Kossar Great Weapons. Zargard have killed a couple of diving units in the backfield here. Streltsy, you can see Kislev's just rallying with whatever remains of their forces, and Khorne is not going to be able to do the same. Without Skull Taker, they don't have any way to keep their tattered units in fights until they're just dead and gone completely. Plus the leadership problems, and you gotta consider the artillery continuing to debuff the leadership even more. It's getting rid of the Chosen's Frenzy, and this is a fairly healthy Chosen. Usually Chosen with about 4,000 HP are still a really dangerous foe. But without that melee attack and getting charged down at the perfect moment by those dervishes, Little Grom lands a beautiful shot right down the middle of the Chosen, and then an lancing charge right up the pipe by the dervishes. Just throws this entire Chosen formation into chaos. Khorne gets their back point, but now we're seeing the rotation to the middle from Kislev, and they're very easily going to be able to lock down this point. At least if they play their cards right. I mean, charging in here with the dervishes isn't a terrible idea, you might think. You're seeing a bunch of really tattered units, but dervishes really just bounce right off of Chosen. The shock damage can work if you can break up the formation like that first dervish was able to. But the Minotaur stiffened up that line just enough for these Chosen to be able to hang on. Zarina gets in here, though, and we are going to get a nice engagement that's going to be able to clean these guys up now. And with a very healthy Streltsy on the number one here, and just the fact that Khorne is just working with bare bones reinforcements now, I don't know what you do here. Zargard are locking out on the home objective. We've got things in the woods coming in. I mean, this is kind of just, this is really about what happened to me against Martinius. Like, I got some whims, but it was just never decisive. And my opponent was always able to replace losses and keep units out on the field where I wasn't. When you're in a situation like this as Khorne, it's basically GG. I mean, you can scrap it out and maybe get a little bit of value back, but you're probably not going to be able to access the points again. And yeah, that's going to be game, set, match. Piston kind of seeing the writing on the wall there. But well played, a really good attempt. It just sucks being forced out of position by the artillery, man. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it either. The best thing that you can do against Little Grom as Khorne is bring double Skull Cannon. Double Skull Cannon can actually outshoot Little Grom fairly easily. Little Grom can't dodge the Skull Cannon shots easily. And if your Micro is really good on Skull Cannons, you can dodge Little Grom's missile. Just weaving back and forth. So there is an answer, but it is very micro-dependent, and it does mean that your front line isn't going to be, like, nearly as high of quality, obviously. I mean, you can cut the Chosen and get the Skull Cannons in there. You'll have 400 gold left over from the cuts, and then I guess you get a Marauder or something. But then the Light War Sleds can probably feast a little bit better, and you do have to kind of juggle where the Skull Cannons are focusing their efforts. because you don't want the light war sleds just pouncing on you. It is what it is. You probably should have built up for that game. Hindsight is 2020, though. You did a fairly good job of scrapping there. You really did just need more support for the dive. And I don't know what it is about that particular map, but I never see Khorne do well on Eastern Isle Colony. I don't know what it is. I mean, it really doesn't look like a bad Khorne map, and I think it works really well for a few matchups, but especially against, like, Dowie, Wood Elves, really long range and aggressive, swarmy factions that can either go crazy wide or just bring an overwhelming amount of firepower, or both. Khorne just cannot hang out on the points there, and they just get shot off so fast 9 times out of 10. Saw this game already, and I think we may have seen Bird and Moonlander. Actually, no way we saw this game. Better believe we're watching a Gorok game, dude. I love Gorok. He's so fun. He's really not terrible. I mean, he's not going to get you a bunch of value, but he is crazy hard to break. And if his items are strong enough that if your opponent makes the mistake of going in on Gorok, all you do is pop Mace of Ulamog and just beat the absolute living crap out of your opponent, because the dazed contact effect, coupled with the already solid like melee defense and the melee attack buff that you get, Gorok is untouchable at that point, and he will hit every attack with 40 more melee attack, plus the lowered melee defense. Saurus Spears out in numbers, always a good call against Bretonnia. Bretonnia has a really hard time against durable infantry of this caliber. Saurus Spears are just a really nice, tanky infantry piece with great weapon strength against large targets, and obviously the Knights are the big selling point for Bretonnia. If their Knights can't perform well, or if they're just forced to dive into like concentrated positions of spearmen, they are going to falter very quickly. Lewin taking some javelin fire. He is going to get on top of the Skink cohort here. I think we're about to see Bird get a really cost-effective volley out of this javelin, but looks like he's going to hold on to the ammunition for those guys. Maybe he wants to go after the Peasant Bowman with the cohorts instead. See the Saurus Spears starting to get shot a little bit. Salamander's taking some poke too. Actually, the Salamander is the primary target of one of these guys. Should definitely just concentrate on one target or the other, though, with those Peasant Bowmen. They don't have a huge amount of damage output. Bows should almost always be focus fired. Artillery is what you want to kind of split fire with, in my opinion. But, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You're still getting good poke on the annoying single entity monster here, as well as on the Saurus Spears. Oh, Shield of Aeon's actually being utilized by Gorok here, and popping the Mace of Ulamog with nothing around him. Bird definitely a little bit ahead of himself on that. That's definitely going to hurt. I mean, if your opponent clocked that and then saw that there was an opportunity, I mean, that's a long cooldown. 120 seconds is ages. This is where Lewin can actually get in and attack Gorok a little bit and do some damage to him. I don't think that's really where he's best utilized, but it is a possibility. Maybe if the Green Knight were here, you could double team him then. Skink Cohort's going to be the target, though. Lewin looks like he wants to just get some terror routes. Grenadier and Archers get hit hard by the cohorts there. The Wardens of Montfort especially taking hideous work. These skink cohorts are just so strong with the javelins. I mean, they do excellent damage to just about everything. They've only got 3 volleys, so you do need to be sparing with the ammo, but it does a lot of work. I mean, they've got way more armor piercing than even, like, chameleon skinks do. Those are chameleon stalkers. Those are there for artillery or something, I would guess. Sword Spear's getting worn down on the front line. Part of the problem is they're fighting the Holy Wardens of La Maison Tall, and they're also getting shot by the Peasant Bowmen back here. Some spears tied up in the Peasant Bowmen, and also fighting against the Beastslayers of Bastogne. Beastslayers of Bastogne are a very nice, tanky infantry unit for Bretonnia. Do have full cap weight, so a good line holder for the home objective here. Good inclusion, I think. They are going to help wear out this Sword Spear for sure. Very unfortunate engagement for Bretonnia. Golden Spear Riders get on top of the damsel, rip her up. She doesn't have the best spells for this matchup, I believe. Wind Blast isn't a bad choice. Curse of the Midnight Wind against the Lizards, I don't really think is all that important. Lizardmen don't have, like, amazing melee attack to begin with. Lowering their armor is nice, but I think that Uranus Thunderbolt would be a little bit better, because you can just drop that on the blobbed up Sword Spears and really hammer those guys down with the Uranans. Could also bring Comet of Cassandora, but the more cost-efficient spell, I think, would be the best call. Stegodon just sitting in the back, using that Ballista. Not a lot of value on this thing. 530 really is not... it's really just not all that impressive. It will be very useful for charging down any of the Bretonnian infantry that's left on the field, though, so we're going to have to keep an eye on what it's able to do in that respect. Cohort of Sotek move over. You can see how hard Gorok is to do damage against. I mean, he's just been fighting all game. Doesn't have a lot of value. Only 68 kills, 179 gold value damage at this point in the game. Nothing to write home about, but he is very healthy. And against the Holy Wardens, he should actually be able to help beat up on these guys. His melee attack is good enough that he's not too bothered about their very small bonus versus infantry. Plus, he's got 100 armor, so fairly durable. Hippogriff Knights with a great charge on the Umbral Tide. And the Ancient Salamander needs to be really careful. Oh, Moonlander could get back in this game with some good engagements. Although the bodies are not looking very favorable for Bretonnia right now. They're lacking infantry presence. You got Golden Spear Riders riding down all of their remaining Peasant Bowmen just about. Got one unit here that's full health, but they have no ammunition, so ignoring them is definitely the right call. Just diving after the ones that are trying to rally is getting a massive dub here on the flank that is going to be very hard to make up, and you can see the Hippogriff Knights dropping models. Great fire from the Umbral Tide and the Ancient Salamander and the Stegodon, just weakening this very expensive elite flyer for Bretonnia. Hippogriff Knights are crazy strong. They're so effective against just about everything. Infantry suffers against them. They bully most mobile units. They can also beat up on lords pretty nicely. They get a good rear charge on the Coldwind Spear Riders, but they're so weak that I think the Spear Riders still win this fight. If you're Bretonnia, I think what you should do here, if you want to attack this Spear Rider while it's out here on the flank, you don't have a lot of supplies. I don't know if you have Mounted Yeomen in reserve here, but if you do, then you summon the Mounted Yeomen out and use them to engage the Spear Riders first, because they'll get up here real quick. Fast enough that all this support is going to have a hard time still getting here. Get the Mounted Yeomen in, they take the engagement, then the Hippogriff Knights charge from the rear, and you'll probably get a terror rout out of it. Coldwind Spear Riders have good leadership, but they don't have ITP. Gorok does have Cold Blood, and he is within range, so I guess he could probably just pop that on them, but I don't know. I think that would be your best bet for the fight at the very least. Knights of the Lionhearted kind of just screaming up into the middle of more Spear Riders. Lizardmen are so good against so many Cav factions for this very reason. The Spear Riders are just crazy cost-effective at 1,000 value. Great bonus versus large. Tons of weapon strength. And their melee attack is respectable enough that usually with their bonus they're going to get past any of the melee defense on most of the cavalry in the same price range. I mean, Knights of the Lionhearted are an ROR Knight of the Realm that costs, what, 1,200 gold, I believe? The Spear Riders are grinding it out against them fairly evenly. Pegasus Knights dive on the Ancient Salamander and then get countered by the Spear Riders here. Very nice engagement. Very clean win, and now they're going to go rear charge down the Beast Slayers at Bastogne. Totally unprepared for the rear charge here from the Lizard cavalry. The final tally in terms of impact on the charge damage really isn't impressive, but you get the leadership break, which is more important. More Umbral Tide Fire coming in, 1,800 value on these guys. Just poking away at Luin. You know, Luin's very hard to kill. Most games he's going to heal cap unless you really fumble him and let his Ladies Champion get lost. That perpetual heal is just so solid. It allows you to go with much more versatile casters than just having to bring life magic every game as Bretonnia. Because there are definitely times to bring Heaven's Magic. Beast Magic is what I would be going for here, though. Because Flock of Doom would be really nice to help you hammer down the Spear Riders. You can use Flock of Doom on, like, big blob positions like this. Lot of potential value that you could be utilizing against the very swarmy skink elements with Flock of Doom. It's good if you can just get, like, the max number of units in that radius. Flock of Doom has no limit on how many units it can actually hit at once. It's gotten some cost, it's gotten some WOM cost increases over time, and I believe it lost a second on its duration on the Overcast form as well, but it's still an excellent spell. If you're not going to bring that, then you should definitely bring Uranus. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking about it, and I just remembered that Chain Lightning got a huge buff. Chain Lightning might actually be the best bet against the Lizards now. The Vortex spells in general are much stronger, because the Vortexes are a little bit less random than they used to be. And they all had damage boosts to them. I can see Chain Lightning actually being a pretty good option for punishing the Saurus Spears, and then also dropping on engaged Spear Riders. Actually, kind of want to go and test that real quick, actually. Let's see what Chain Lightning can do to an engaged Cold One Spear Rider before we put all our eggs in that basket. And I go crazy with recommending it. I don't want to be too spurious. I'm going to have to be Lizardman. Or not Lizard. What the hell am I talking about? I'm going to have to be Bretonnia. Lizardman. Just give him a Skink Chief. Just cut all his shenanigans here. We get 3 Spear Riders, and we'll just do a Prophetess. Heaven's Magic and Chain Lightning. Get Arcane Conduit so we can actually get her to cast it quickly. Test this with Knights of the Realm. We'll also get a Paladin on the Warhorse. And we're going to see what he can do. We'll see what the damage profile is with the units blobbed up on a single entity, and also what it looks like when you cast it onto a cavalry fight. I think that'll be a pretty good indicator of what its odds on success are. Yeah, cheap anti-large cavalry are pretty heavily overrepresented in the meta right now. All of the rosters that are top tier right now have something like that. Spear Riders, Hellstriders, and Cold One Knights are all fairly affordable anti-large, high charge bonus, shot cavalry. Cold One Knights, especially for the Dark Elves, seem really strong on the charge. Like, the Lizard variant does not seem to get as consistently high value charges as the Dark Elf variant. I'm not sure what that can be chalked up to. Somebody even more knowledgeable than me is going to have to inform me. Because I'm just not 100% on that one. Knights of the Realm are, you know, a staple. So we've got one here. We're going to go and we're just going to sack it in. There's another Spear Rider hiding in the trees here. And we're just going to gear up with the Chain Lightning. It's a fairly affordable spell at 14 WOM. I mean, that's fairly expensive, but for the power level that it offers, I think it's pretty nice. We'll just drop it here. And let's see what happens. I mean, this is about, it's like a mistake that you'd be looking to punish in-game as well. That's actually pretty decent. We got a pretty unlucky rotation. I actually ended up roasting a lot of our knights, but that's like one of the things that we need to be testing and mindful of in the future, right? Let's pull back for a moment. We'll just wait until we can cast another Chain Lightning. Until then, we're just going to run with our units. We're not going to try and keep them from getting caught here. So the Paladin is the next man up for testing out the Chain Lightning shenanigans here. We're going to get the Spear Riders blobbed up around him, and then we'll drop the spell cast again. Almost have enough WOM. There is no overcast form of Chain Lightning, by the way, if you were wondering. Whatever, we'll just do this here. It's fine. Couple more seconds. We'll just get them out here. I don't care about winning this game. Let's just see what this does, and then we can kind of call it here. It's about as, I mean, it's about as cleanly placed as you can get a Vortex spell on Cavalry. Yeah, that damage is really nice. The Vortex does rotate fairly quickly, so maybe again in Cavalry fights it's not great. It does make me think that against Infantry it'll still be fairly effective. Maybe just be a little bit more patient about when and where you cast it. I think Uranans is probably still the better option for those fights, because Uranans does massive damage to Cavalry. It takes a long time to cast, but the strike area is kind of hard to see on the ground when you're casting it. It's fairly small. I think it would fly under the radar pretty nicely, so the wind-up time isn't too bad. I mean, the long and the short of it is you just cannot rely on your knights in that matchup like you can in most others for Bretonnia. I mean, questing knights are just not the unit that you hope they are. They're pretty weak. There are ways that you can buff them up and make them respectable units. You could probably use them to combo with Alberic against the Lizardmen, because the Braid of Bordelot gives a bonus versus large to any unit underneath him. And questing knights, like, weakness is the fact that they don't specialize in anything. They don't do extra damage to infantry. They don't have extra chance to hit cavalry. Oftentimes the questing knights just run out of steam before they can get their value back, but maybe with Braid of Bordelot you can get the edge in those fights. See what that looks like as well. We'll bring a damsel. We're just gonna do a little bit of testing. That's gonna be, I think that'll be the last game that I'm casting today. Although we got one more game for Piston that I'd like to check out. Now I'm thinking about it. Get him on the Griffin. Let's see what happens with this. I mean, if you cast the Earthbloods and the Regrowths on the Knights, they would definitely be able to outpace these guys, but I want to see what the head-to-head looks like. I'm pretty sure the Cold One Spear Riders against just a unbuffed Questing Knight, it's not really going to go too hot for the Questing Knights. They're just slightly more expensive. We'll see. Maybe they actually just went out in the one-on-one, though. They're a lot faster, too. Maybe you just need to hit and run with the Questing Knights a lot. Let's just see what happens here, and then we'll have Alberic support this last Questing Knight and its one-on-one over here, and see what the difference is. Missed the charge a little bit on one of those fights. This fight goes off really nicely. Okay, Questing Knights actually look really strong against the Spear Riders in a vacuum. Okay, that's kind of cool to see. If you miss the charge, it's a much more even battle, though. We'll get the fight here. Now we do have Alberic hovering overhead, and you can see that he's giving that anti-large bonus, and this is where the Cold One Spear Riders are really getting folded up. Oh my god. Wow. Questing Knights. Okay, Questing Knights versus the Lizardmen may be the way to go, then. You don't even really need the heals, supposedly at least. That's just extra gravy on the top, baby. I mean, it's going to get more complicated, though, once you add in skinks and everything, but just in the head-to-head, it looks pretty favorable for Bretonnia. Like, skinks and sort of spears sitting underneath Spear Riders will definitely muddy the waters as to the actual in-game value you can get. That is worth considering there. Yeah, the stationary vortexes tend to be stronger because they just don't miss. They're always going to hit where you cast them. You don't have to guess about where they're going. That is like the one drawback. Random's going to random at the end of the day, I guess. Alright, one last game. Did you send me your, did you send me this game, Piston? What round was it? Oh, I don't think I ever... I just... Scrolling back now, I don't think I watched that replay between you and Martin Piston. If you're still here and you want to send it to me, I'll do my best to make some time and check it out. Round 4, okay. I'm trying to find the Skaven replay that you're talking about, Piston. I'll hook you up with that before I jump off here. Did you post it? I don't see it anywhere, man. Khorne versus Skaven is a really fun matchup. I'd love to be able to see it, but I can't cast it if it's not available here. Anyways, if you find time to send it to me, brother, then go for it, and I'll take a peek at it. I think Yeah, since we don't have that replay, I think we'll call it here. And if you send it to me, I can cast it as a standalone video. Oh, okay. Oh, alright. Oh, you want advice for that matchup, then. Alright. Alright. Well, send it to me, and I'll advise you on how to beat the Skaven. You know, it's fun. You brought the Soul Grinder against Kislev, which isn't a matchup I would recommend a Soul Grinder into. You did really well there with it. Soul Grinder's like best matchup is into Skaven almost. It's one of the best. You gotta be careful of their rattling guns and Jezzails and whatnot, but the terror on this Soul Grinder plus the artillery debuff that it imbues running around is money against Skaven. They struggle so badly against it. And you can use it to kind of push around Storm Vermin. You can sit it off to the side and just use the shotgun cannon to whittle them down. So check it out there, Piston. If you ever get a chance to play that matchup again with the Soul Grinder, let me know how it goes. That's going to be it for today, guys. I appreciate y'all coming and checking it out. I'm working on making more free time for myself so I can actually play the game more consistently. It's been a very slow, like, month or so. The game is feeling a little stale right now to me. I've been struggling to just get excited to play it. But I'll see what I can do to maybe get myself back into it so we can have a few more streams, because I do love just coming in and hanging out and chatting about the game. I'll keep y'all posted. Till then, guys, y'all take care. Peace out. Stay safe. Seriously, things are crazy.